I'm 5'1". My wife is 5'9". Also, I'm literally the biggest introvert. I know. I'm not even kidding. I once pretended to be asleep for an entire 6-hour car ride so I wouldn't have to talk to people that I didn't know. And no, I'm not rich, if that's what you're thinking. If I, of all people, can find a wife, I'm telling you, you can too. I know that being single in modern church culture can feel exhausting, and some of you might be watching this thinking it's never gonna happen to me. Trust me, I was in your shoes too. It can happen. So I want to give you 5 things today that I had to walk through myself. These 5 things took me from being the guy fake sleeping in the car to becoming a married man. First thing we have to talk about is this. Is your fear of people actually greater than your desire to get married? Because if it is, we have to change that right now, or you're never going to ask anyone out. Because look, you could transform yourself into the perfect guy. You could get the best job, the best haircut, the best personality. But if that fear of people is still controlling your heart, you're never actually going to ask anyone out. So how do you get past this? For me, the answer wasn't just trying harder to be brave. It was getting closer to God. And I know that sounds like a Sunday school answer, but hear me out. Getting closer to God is what made him more real to me in my life. And the more real God is to you, the less fear you're going to have in everything else. Think about the story of Daniel in the lion's den. For anyone who doesn't know, Daniel was thrown into an actual pit of lions because prayer was outlawed, but he didn't stop praying. He was thrown in there, but instead of being eaten, the lions didn't even touch him. He was perfectly fine, and the next day, they saw him and he was all good because God protected him. And for me, the more real stories like this become, the more I realize the same God who shut the mouths of those lions is the God standing next to me, the less fear I have in my day-to-day life. I start to have actual confidence in God's power instead of my own skills. Now, some of you might be thinking, that sounds great, but honestly, it feels a lot easier to face a lion than to face a girl I'm attracted to. And I want to tell you, I totally get it. That was honestly me. But I want to encourage you with something. In Isaiah 41:10, God says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." See, that's the beautiful thing about God. We have a lot of fear. I'm someone who struggled deep with fear and anxiety my whole life. But that's exactly why we need God in the first place. Humans are naturally afraid, but that's where God comes in. He meets us where our fear is. 2 Corinthians 12 says, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." And Paul's response is amazing. He says, "Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For when I am weak, I am strong." It's okay to admit that you have fear. It's a beautiful thing to be humble enough to admit that you need Christ to overcome your fear. If you're sitting there thinking, "I'm too afraid to even say hello to this girl," that's good, because then you have to trust in God's power. That's where you have to put your faith in God, and trusting in God's power is what leads to success. So that's the first step. Make God more real in your life than the lions you're afraid of. Number 2 is to become more Christ-like. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Okay, I'll read my Bible, I'll pray more, I'll check all the boxes so that I'll finally be at this level where I'm a good enough man to have a wife. And then, maybe with that mindset, you kind of start feeling like a hypocrite because you feel like you're only doing these things so that you can get that girl. I'm going to stop you there, though, and tell you it's okay if wanting a wife is part of your motivation. The main priority is reading the Bible, being in community, is because we love Jesus and we want to follow him. He is number 1. Yes, that is and has to be the main priority. But I'm telling you, becoming more like Jesus effectively helps you find a godly woman. For me, I read my Bible every day because I loved God. But if I'm being honest, there was an extra added motivation to wanting to be the kind of man a godly woman would actually want to marry. And think about it logically. God created us with the desire for a spouse. That desire comes from Him. It makes total sense that God would use that natural desire to pull us closer to Him. It's not a trick or anything like that. It goes hand in hand with how God designed us to be as humans. You don't want to just attract any woman. You want a quality woman. Someone who will be a godly wife, someone who brings you joy, and someone who helps you become more Christ-like. And the best way to attract a woman like that is for you to have Christ-like qualities as well. Being like Jesus acts like a filter. It filters the wrong people out and brings the right people in. So, how do we do this? It's not just scanning pages of text, it's diving into the Bible to actually understand it, doing scripture memorization, looking at all of it and looking at the details of your life and asking, what area do I need to grow? And you can't do this alone. We all have our blind spots. I have them, you have them, we all have them. This is why you need mentors. Biblically centered men who can see things in your life and see your blind spots that you can't see. This is why it's important to be in a church community. Because even if you're too shy to talk to the married guys yet, just being around them and watching how they live their day-to-day lives at least gives you something to emulate at the bare minimum. My third point, serve at your church. Now, let me clarify something. I'm not just saying I believe this is a good idea. I'm saying this from my own experience because serving was the single best way that I got closer to people. I've been in Bible studies, I've been in small groups, and those are great. But the closest friends I have today, the people I'm actually tight with, are the ones I met in the ministries where I was actually doing something, and that includes my wife. We had actually known of each other for about 2 to 3 years, but nothing was happening. Our connection didn't really start until we both started serving in our church's high school ministry together. There's just something about seeing someone in that service capacity that draws you in. I really think there's a good chance you could find a solid Christian wife in the ministry that you end up serving in because you're bonding over the most important things in your lives. You're trying to change lives for Christ and you're facing the same trials. Even if the serving isn't hard, you're going to have difficult moments, and going through those together creates a bond that a coffee shop chat just doesn't reach. But of course, you have to check your heart. I'm not telling you to sign up for the greeting team or youth group just to scout for a wife. Don't do it purely out of selfishness. If you do that, people can smell it a mile away, and it's not a good look. Serve because you love Jesus, but be open to the fact that God might help you find your future spouse there, and keep your eyes open while you're doing His work. Number 4 is getting your community involved. If you are in a healthy Christian community with people who really love you, those people are going to root for you and want to see you get married. Marriage is a wonderful gift from God, and a church community that is good and biblical knows that. They cheer it on, they get excited for it. But, of course, this is a problem that I had and what we've been talking about. As introverts, we tend to keep stuff like who we like, our relationships, our desires a secret because we don't want to look desperate or weak, or we're just shy. But the last 2 years, before I found my wife, I decided to be completely open. I told everyone, look, I really, really want to get married and I want your help. And I would literally share how frustrated I was that I wasn't married yet. And what happened? Because I was open, people came alongside me. They helped me grow as a man. And ultimately, it was through that openness that a friend at church started talking to one of her friends about me. She suggested we go on a date, and she basically set us up. That setup led to our first date, and that girl became my wife. Good, healthy Christian community wants to help you find a wife, But they can't help you if you don't know that you want one, that you're looking. So be open, ask for advice, let them help you. Lastly, number 5, you actually have to go on dates. Now, maybe I'm being too philosophical or sentimental here, but for a long time, especially in early 2010s Christian culture, it felt like asking someone to go to coffee was monumental, like it was a life-altering event, and felt like you had to do all your homework and that you had to be 100% sure she was marriage material before you even dared to ask. But I really believe that was the wrong mentality. The purpose of going on a date is to find out those things. You don't need to know if you're perfectly compatible yet. If she loves the Lord, follows Him, and is striving to be like Christ, then you're good. That's all you need to ask out a girl on a simple date. But I know what's stopping you, because it stopped me. It's the what if. What if she says no? What if it's awkward? Let me get vulnerable, okay? There are 5 women at my church that I asked out, and they all said no to me. And until recently, when a few of them moved away, I used to see them all the time, every Sunday. I saw them multiple times a week. And you want to know the truth? It's not awkward. I'm actually still good friends with them. People have told me that's really weird to be close with someone who rejected you, but I think it comes down to maturity. If you're a mature Christ-like guy and you're asking out a mature Christ-like woman, you can both handle a no maturely and with grace. A godly woman isn't going to mock you or try to make you feel inferior. She is your sister in Christ. And look, the more dates you go on, the more comfortable you'll get at doing this. Yeah, the first one is going to be very stressful and you might be sweating all over. I certainly did. But I promise you that as you keep doing it, it becomes less scary and you get more comfortable. You realize that a no isn't a catastrophe. You can just take it as a sign that God has a different plan for you. So don't wait until you're not scared. Do it while you're scared, because when you're weak, again, that's when God's strong. I do want to say, though, that at the end of the day, being single is not a bad thing. In fact, Paul even writes about how it's a gift. And honestly, I actually feel like I wasted my single years. And if you want to hear more about that, click on the video on the screen.